I'm not one much for giving tips to other photographers, just because I think it's a little bit arrogant. Not to mention I don't know everything, especially with still photography. I'm kind of new to this as well because all of my background was in video and film. So, and those are two different worlds, believe it or not, especially when it comes to lighting. But they really are two completely different things. If you're good at one or the other, doesn't mean necessarily you're going to be good at the other thing as well. So film guys and video guys aren't going to be great at photography necessarily just because they were video guys, and vice versa. So it's wild how it's two completely different worlds. But anyway, I wanted to give a couple tips on this because street photography is kind of my passion. That doesn't even make sense. How can something be kind of your passion? Anyway, when it comes to photography, that's my favorite thing, along with abandoned buildings, which I kind of miss shooting. There's not many around here, so there's not a whole lot of opportunities, but there are some secret gems that I just haven't been back and visited in a while. But anyway, I wanted to give some tips on street photography. It's probably the most intimidating form of photography there is because you're out with people that you don't know. You don't know how they'll react. It can get violent. I've seen a couple stories of guys that had their, very expensive cameras broken, a Ricoh GR. One guy told me about that the guy completely smashed it, which isn't a necessarily cheap APS-C camera, but a pocket camera. They're very nice cameras, kind of sought after. The Ricoh world is good stuff. But I just wanted to give a few tips on street photography in case anybody is thinking about wanting to go do it. It's really rewarding. It's really fun. It captures the human experience, especially when you do it candidly. And I'll get into that and the other way of doing it here in a few. But it really is a way of capturing a time and place with emotion in it. You can go to an event or go to, shoot architecture. You can shoot a city or something, but, a lot of times you miss, if there's no human facial expression in it, then there's not a whole lot of emotion or feel to the photo besides how you edit it. So getting right into it, with street photography, the first thing is to get rip-roaring drunk or high on something and not care what anybody says. That's a joke. Don't do that. Because you could go out and do something stupid in an altered state of mind. Now, the first thing is to, and I took notes here, this is when I kind of picked up on my own, noticing how people would react to their photo. Look beyond the person. When you take the picture, this is one of my Sonys. I've switched over to Fuji for street photography. They're much lighter cameras and it's a better setup. But this is one of my pro cameras for weddings and portraits and stuff and headshots. But the bottom line is, when you're shooting, first of all, keep this eye open if you can. This is a trained thing too. After a while, you can keep both eyes open. You don't have to look like this, which makes it just a little more obvious, because this eye being open for some reason just kind of disarms people a little bit. But anyway, what you want to do is act like you're shooting beyond the person. So once you take the picture, look and check. If they catch you, this is for the ones that catch you taking their picture. Look back up and look slightly past them. So if their head's here, you're looking maybe over here. Almost like you meant to take a picture of something beyond them. And this is really cool because it works for the kind of arrogant people who are like, why are you taking my picture? What are you, like, it's just street photography. You're not that important. I mean, you are important for us, but you're not a celebrity. And then they kind of feel disarmed. They feel less vulnerable. It's not like you're, taking their picture to put all over the internet or something, or make fun of them or whatever. But either way, whatever their concern is, they feel little bit disarmed. And then you can bring the camera up and snap it again if you missed it the first time, of that same person, and they think you're just shooting something behind them. Second thing is, it's definitely important to keep moving. Once you get that snap, don't stand there. Especially don't look at them. It's one thing to look down. This is something you should also do as well. Look down at the camera, but keep moving. Act like you're just just quick shot. I'm trying to think of a way to, something to compare that to, but just a quick shot, and then you keep going. You're walking, you're gone. They think nothing of it the more you move. It really works good in crowded places, because by then you're gone. Maybe they've seen you take a picture of something else too, and they look back at you, you're already moving. You've looked past them and you're already gone. Meanwhile, you have them on camera. Another thing to do is just ask. with some of the shots, it's okay to ask. If you see an interesting couple, I utilize this a good bit. If I see an interesting person or group of people, sometimes I'll just, and all it takes is just point. Just point at them and then point at the lens with a kind of question look on your face. Be like, is this okay? Most of the time they'll say yeah, and then they'll pose. Those are good for street portraits. Sometimes you want them to pose and look at you, but if you're doing candids, obviously that won't work. But utilize both. If you see something you really want and you're worried about it, just kind of point and ask. And the worst they'll say is no. I've had many people do that to me. When I was in Charleston, there was 2 girls there, and of course this is going to be awkward because there's a guy walking around with a camera and 2 girls sitting and eating, but there was signage in front of them on the glass entrance or the glass window to the place, and they looked really cool behind it, and it was also raining a little bit, so there was a little bit of what do you call it? Rain. What is it? Not perspiration, but precipitation on the glass. So it kind of fuzzied them a little bit, and I could go past the street sign and get them in focus, or use the sign to the building, whatever it was. But that's a cool thing to do. So anyway, I go and I point at these women, and they said no. They looked at me kind of weird too, like, what do you want? That's okay. They're going to do that. People don't know what you're doing. People aren't used to street photographers. Especially around where I live in Myrtle Beach, even Charleston, you won't see a lot. They're usually, all the street photographers are in New York City and, bigger cities where there's miles and miles and miles and miles of places to go capture and shoot. And every turn of the foot is a different look. It's harder in smaller towns. But anyway, that's a big thing is sometimes just ask. And they'll say no. So what? Then you just keep walking, say thank you, and then you just keep walking. Another thing that's big, I think, I got business cards made just for this. I have 2 sets of cards, one for my professional shoots and another for street photography with 2 different social medias. The one for my street photography is, it's white, it's easier to read, I can kind of just hand it to them as I'm walking by. Or sometimes they'll stop and ask. They say, what is this for? I say, I'm a street photographer, and I'll hand them the thing. And then they're excited about it because they want to see their picture. Then you can either just send it to them for free, which I usually do for my street stuff, or you can make it a sell them to them thing. Say, check this out if you'd like to buy your portrait of you two, $10 or whatever it was, and you take the watermark off and sell them the photo. So there's money to be made in street photography as well, because a lot of times I've had people message me, especially the ones in Charleston, just saying, hey, can we get those pictures? Yeah, you sure can. But like I say, I don't do them for free. But I do them for free, but you can sell them. The last thing, flash photography. There's a guy named Bruce Gilden who specializes in up close. He uses a 20mm lens, up close photography, and he has a flash, off-camera flash. So he's holding it over here, and he's getting right in people's faces. I'll probably show an example of this on screen. Getting right in people's faces, shooting them up here. That's my next thing, is to incorporate flash. I just want to see what else I can get with getting, 1, closer, and 2, capture the emotion on people's faces even better with flash. And then you can also incorporate some background movement when you're using flash. So you can go at higher shutter speeds and get a little bit of the feel of movement wherever you're shooting the street photography as well, instead of just close down fast photos. So the last thing I think is, unless you're using an autofocus, and if a lot of times the autofocus will hamper you a little bit if you see a shot that the autofocus could take a second or 2. With the modern cameras, it's basically instant, but still, zone focus is better. If you don't know about zone focus, they're easy to find on YouTube or wherever what that means, but you want to be able to capture it quickly. So if you're using that zone focus, you're going to be able to do that quicker. And I would suggest using an f-stop around a 10 or higher. When I first started, I was going 1.4, 50mm blurry background on the stuff, and it looks great, but you run the risk of getting your subject out of focus. And sometimes it's nicer to have a more raw feeling and just have everything in, even at f10. So think about the different f-stops you can use. Do a mixture of them on the same shoot if you like. It's so easy to change. So that's all I had for street photography tips. I don't know if this will help anybody or if they even care, but if you do, there you go. Those are mine for now. Thanks.